Yeah, and I'll even throw in like some that when I would talk with Tyler Wilson or Ryan Mallett or any of those guys that were great quarterbacks under Petrino. It was fascinating to hear how the practices were because that was the thing. Obviously now we don't really get access to practices much at all, and also Bobby Petrino is not the head coach, so I'm sure there is a little bit of a difference. But the thing that I always heard, and even from some of the former defensive players I would talk to, is that Petrino was always about making sure that his quarterbacks had all the confidence in the world and set those practices up to where the quarterback could succeed. I remember former defensive back telling me that there was a time where they had an interception in practice. They picked off a quarterback. It was a great play. Of course, they're hooting and hollering, going crazy. And Petrino goes over there and rips them, just absolutely rips the defensive backs for getting a pick off his quarterback. And, that kind of seems a little odd to do it that way. It's like, okay, well, like, shouldn't you be happy that your defense is making plays and everything? But that's not his thing. His thing is, I need the quarterbacks confident in practice because if they're confident in practice, they're going to be more confident in those games. And when they're confident in themselves of making those tough throws or whatever that they struggle with, it's as much of a mind game as anything. And if they hesitate or if they, end up not feeling like, oh, I can't do this play. If Petrino calls in this play and the quarterback's, oh, crap, not this play. I'm like, it's just going to ruin everything. And I think that's something that maybe people, it's easy to say you want your quarterback confident, but about giving them that confidence as a coach, I think it's a lot more difficult. And there's a method to the madness for Petrino in that.
I mean, it almost feels like getting the quarterback as confident as possible comes at the expense of the confidence of some other people on the team. And we talked about it quite a bit, but it was funny. I could be wrong. I think it was Tom Murphy that asked the question about like, hey, looked like Taylon Green's completion percentage was mid-50s last year. Is there a window that you'd like to see him, get into or whatever? And right away, he was like, listen, there's a lot that goes into completion percentage. For example, route running. And so he immediately put it on being precise in the routes, protection from the offensive line. And all those things are absolutely true, 100% true. But he really didn't say much about, the quarterback actually throwing the ball and the receivers catching it. It was very much everything else technical there. We know that he's a route Nazi, but it was funny to see that he didn't shy away from going directly to that when he got the opportunity.
I used to think it was kind of weird when Kendall Briles used to always say 65% was kind of like their benchmark for quarterback completion percentage, which like is that's a good percentage. It kind of makes sense. But I always thought it was kind of interesting that a coach would kind of put their offense through that type of thing, because it's like, there's, like you said, there's so much that goes into it. And so I can't think of anything more frustrating for Bobby Petrino than watching these quarterbacks every single day at practice, charting every throw that they made. And then, someone's going to ask you about his Boise State completion percentage. He's like, that ain't got nothing to do with me, dude. I don't care about what he did at Boise State when he was running for his life every play. But yeah, just kind of going back to the practice thing, I've heard about this with NFL quarterbacks. Like I know Aaron Rodgers, he throws a lot of picks in practice because he's always trying to test his receivers a little bit. See, hey, can I trust this guy in this situation? Patrick Mahomes, when he first got to the Chiefs, like it was alarming to the organization how many picks he was throwing in practice, where they were like, this kid just is a gunslinger. But there's a lot of these quarterbacks that have that mentality where in practice they're trying things to see what they can get away with in the game. And so that's seems to be what Bobby Petrino was referencing there, talking about, you got to know if you have the confidence to do that, and your teammates need to see you take those chances in practice. And so, yeah, man, it seems like we're turning in the right direction with the offseason hype here for this offense for sure.
Well, speaking of the thing about accuracy and about Taylon Green, here's Petrino talking about that.
Yeah, there's so many things that go into completion percentage. You can't just judge a quarterback on that because it starts, all 11 guys being on the same page between your pass protection, with your offensive line, between your pass protection and routes with your running backs and tight ends, and then the precision of your receivers with routes. So, I never really, anytime I recruit somebody, I really don't look at the completion percentage. I'm looking at, how they throw the ball, how they compete, what their decision making is, as opposed to staying away from percentages.
Yeah, and to continue on with the point we've been talking about, like, do you guys know who one of the most accurate, or I think he's still number one, or at least number two, most accurate quarterback percentage-wise in NFL history?
Drew Brees.
No. At least I don't think it is. But no, I know for one the fact that Chad Pennington, the only reason I know that is because he was with the Jets. Does anybody see Chad Pennington? Oh, that's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Yeah. No.
Sam Bradford, I think, broke the single season record one year on like a 6-10 team.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like that. And then also to counter that thing, 2009, Ryan Mallett's first year at Arkansas under Bobby Petrino. Do you guys happen to have a guess what his completion percentage was on the season?
56, 57?
Yeah, about 56%. And so it's like, but people remember, like Mallett, I think that year had 30 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions, averaged about 300 yards passing, but the accuracy was lower. He improved on it the second year. The only reason I'm bringing all that up is because, like what Petrino talks about, like those accuracy numbers and percentages, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you really wanted to do that, if that's really what you cared about, you could have a quarterback just throwing like jet passes in like right in front of him as soon as the play starts, and hey, he's going to have 100% accuracy. Like I feel like that's something where if you hear what Petrino says and then relaying it to maybe like a Kendall Briles or whoever, it's like the percentages doesn't matter. What matters is what throws you can make and how wide of a variety that you can do, and just throwing it all over the field and making those throws to keep the defense honest. Because again, accuracy doesn't mean really anything if you can't throw a post route or a good slant or anything like that.